The transmission came through at exactly midnight, Galactic Standard Time. Calith Vorn stood in the shadows of her private chambers, her fingers trembling as she pressed the communicator against her pointed ear. The voice on the other end belonged to a human named Marcus Chun, leader of the rebellion that had been fighting against her father's empire for the past 7 years. She had made her choice 3 months ago when she witnessed her father order the destruction of a human colony on the Outer Rim. 40,000 souls burned to ash because they refused to surrender their mining rights. Her father had laughed while the planet burned. He had called it a lesson. Calith had called it murder. The Vorn Empire stretched across 17 star systems. Her father, High Lord Draken Vorn, ruled with fire and fear. His species, the Paralians, had evolved on a volcanic world where only the strongest survived. They breathed smoke and drank liquid metal. Their skin was like molten rock, and their eyes burned with eternal flame. For centuries, they had conquered world after world, enslaving every species they encountered. But the humans were different. They did not break like the others. They did not bow. They formed the rebellion and fought back with a fury that surprised everyone, including Calith herself. She had studied humans in secret for years, fascinated by their resilience. They were small and soft compared to Paralians. They could not survive in extreme heat. They needed water and air and gentle temperatures. Yet they refused to surrender. Marcus Chun's voice was calm on the communicator. He gave her the coordinates and told her to come alone. He said the rebellion would welcome her if she proved her loyalty. Calith knew what that meant. She would have to betray everything she had ever known. She packed nothing. She wore simple clothes instead of her royal armor. She left behind her crown of flames and her staff of authority. She walked through the silent corridors of her father's palace, past the sleeping guards and the automated defenses she had disabled earlier that night. Her heart pounded in her chest as she reached the hangar bay. Her personal ship was small and fast. It was designed for diplomatic missions, not combat. She climbed inside and powered up the engines. The security protocols accepted her clearance without question. Nobody suspected that the Fire Lord's daughter would ever run away. The ship lifted off and shot into the darkness of space. Calith watched her homeworld shrink behind her. The palace glowed like a beacon of fire against the black sky. She felt tears burning in her eyes, but she did not look back again. The journey to the rebellion's hidden base took 14 hours. She crossed 3 star systems and passed through 2 nebulas. The coordinates led her to an asteroid field in a region of space that was supposed to be empty. As she approached, her sensors detected dozens of ships hiding among the rocks. They were human vessels, battered and scarred from years of warfare. A voice crackled over her communication system. It ordered her to surrender control of her ship. Calith obeyed without hesitation. A tractor beam grabbed her vessel and pulled it toward the largest asteroid, which had been hollowed out and converted into a massive space station. She landed in a hangar filled with humans. They stared at her with a mixture of fear and hatred. She understood their feelings. Her father had killed millions of their kind. Her very presence was an insult to their suffering. Marcus Chun pushed through the crowd. He was tall for a human, with dark hair and tired eyes. He wore the simple uniform of the rebellion, gray and practical. He carried no weapons that she could see, but she sensed the danger in him. He stopped in front of her and studied her face. She knew what he was looking for. He wanted to know if she was sincere or if she was a spy sent by her father. Calith spoke first. She told him about the colony her father had destroyed. She told him about the thousands of other atrocities she had witnessed throughout her life. She told him that she could no longer be silent. She said she wanted to help the rebellion and her father's reign of terror. Marcus listened without interrupting. When she finished, he asked her a single question. He asked her if she was prepared to fight against her own people. Calith said yes. The news of her defection reached her father within hours. The Vorn Empire had spies everywhere, and such a scandal could not remain secret for long. High Lord Drakenvorn received the report while sitting on his throne of obsidian and flame. His advisors trembled as they delivered the message. Draken's reaction was immediate and absolute. He stood up and declared that he no longer had a daughter. He announced that Calithvorn was a traitor to her blood and her species. He ordered every member of the Empire to treat her as an enemy. He placed a bounty on her head that was large enough to buy a small planet. Then he did something that shocked even his most loyal followers. He burned every image of Calith that existed in the palace. He destroyed every record of her birth and her childhood. He erased her name from the official history of the Vorn dynasty. In the eyes of the Empire, Calith no longer existed. The message was clear. There would be no mercy and no forgiveness. The Fire Lord had disowned his daughter completely. Calith learned of her father's response from Marcus Chun. She sat in a small room in the rebellion's base, surrounded by humans who were slowly beginning to trust her. She listened to the recording of her father's speech and felt nothing but cold determination. She had expected this. She had known that her father would never accept her choice. The Parelians did not believe in second chances or redemption. They believed in strength and conquest and the eternal fire that burned within their souls. But Calith had discovered something that her father could never understand. She had discovered that strength was not about destroying others. True strength was about protecting the innocent and standing up for what was right, even when the cost was everything you loved. The rebellion welcomed her into their ranks. She provided them with information about her father's military strategies and the weaknesses in his defenses. She taught them about Paralian technology and culture. She helped them understand their enemy in ways they never could before. Months passed. The rebellion grew stronger. Calith fought alongside the humans in battle after battle. She proved her loyalty with blood and sacrifice. She saved human lives and risked her own. Slowly, the hatred in the eyes of her comrades turned into respect and eventually into friendship. Marcus Chun became her closest ally. He taught her about human history and philosophy. He showed her why his species refused to surrender, even when the odds were against them. He explained that humans had faced extinction many times throughout their existence. They had survived ice ages and plagues and wars that nearly destroyed their civilization. They had learned that hope was the most powerful weapon in the universe. Calith began to understand why her father feared the humans so much. It was not because they were strong. It was because they were impossible to break. They would rather die than live without freedom. That made them more dangerous than any army. The final battle came on a day that would be remembered forever. The rebellion had gathered its entire fleet for an assault on the Vorn homeworld. It was a desperate gamble. They were outnumbered 10-1, and the Paralians had weapons that could burn entire planets to cinders. But they had something that the Paralians did not have. They had Calithvorn. She led the attack herself, flying a human fighter ship that had been modified to survive the extreme temperatures near her father's palace. She knew every defense system and every patrol route. She had spent her entire childhood in that palace, and now she would use that knowledge to destroy it. The battle was brutal. Ships exploded like stars going nova. Thousands died on both sides. The Paralian fleet fought with savage fury, but the humans fought with something stronger. They fought with the courage of those who had nothing left to lose. Calith broke through the defensive lines and reached the palace. She landed her ship on the roof and climbed out into the burning air. Her lungs screamed in protest, but she pushed forward. She had one mission left to complete. She found her father in his throne room, waiting for her. He was alone. He had sent away his guards because he wanted to face her himself. He still wore his crown of flames, and his eyes burned with a hatred that was older than the stars. They did not speak. There was nothing left to say. Father and daughter faced each other across the throne room, and then they fought. The battle lasted for what felt like hours. They were evenly matched in skill and power. Caliph was younger and faster, but Draken had centuries of experience. They burned and clashed and struggled until the palace shook with their fury. In the end, it was Caliph who found an opening. She remembered a move that her father had taught her when she was a child, a technique that he claimed was unbeatable. She used it against him, and he did not see it coming. He had never imagined that she would remember such an old lesson. Draken fell. He looked up at his daughter with something that might have been surprise or respect or regret. Then the fire in his eyes went out forever. Caliph stood over her father's body and felt the weight of what she had done. She had killed the only family she had ever known. She had destroyed the empire that had raised her. She had changed the course of galactic history. The rebellion's fleet secured the Vorn homeworld within days. The remaining Paralian forces surrendered when they learned that the Fire Lord was dead. The war was over, and the humans had won. Marcus Chun found Caliph sitting alone on the steps of her father's throne. He sat down beside her and said nothing for a long time. Finally, he asked her what she wanted to do next. Caliph thought about the question. She had given up everything to join the rebellion. She had no home, no family, and no future that she could imagine. She was a traitor to her own species and a hero to another. She looked at Marcus and smiled for the first time in months. She said that she wanted to help rebuild what her father had destroyed. She wanted to create a galaxy where every species could live in peace and freedom. She wanted to prove that the choices we make are more important than the blood in our veins. Marcus nodded and offered her his hand. She took it, and together they walked out of the palace into the light of a new dawn. The fire that had burned within Caliph her entire life was still there, but now it burned for something greater than conquest. It burned for hope. The galaxy would never be the same. The humans had taught the universe a lesson that would echo through the ages. They had shown that even the mightiest empires could fall when brave individuals dared to stand against them. And they had proven that redemption was possible for anyone who had the courage to seek it. Caliph Vorn, once the daughter of the Fire Lord, became the first Paralian ambassador to the human coalition. She spent the rest of her long life building bridges between species and healing the wounds of war. She never forgot her father or the terrible things he had done, but she refused to let his legacy define her. In the end, she found something that her father had never possessed. She found a family among the humans who had accepted her when no one else would. She found a purpose that was worth more than any empire. She found peace, and that was the greatest victory of all.